The coalition is pushing ahead with its plan for a nuclear-powered future. The party has released some details as to where these reactors will be built and how long it will take to get them established. But there are still a lot of questions over costing and if this move is actually achievable in a good time frame. Is there broad support for it? Well, joining me now is RedBridge Group Director Simon Welsh. Simon, great to see you. We know how fierce the political arena is when it comes to debating this particular issue, but what have voters told you this week?
Yeah, thanks, Laura. Yeah, it's interesting. I think I would consider where we are now as we're at the end of the straight of the first lap of the Melbourne Cup. There's a long way to go, but the horses are kind of settling into the rhythm. And what we're seeing at the moment is the old a third. About a third of folk are open to the idea and supportive, about a third are unsure, got questions, and about a third are against. That sort of headline probably isn't that helpful, but I think what's interesting is what's happening within each of those sort of three categories, if you will. And what's happening there, I think, represents some real headwinds for the coalition on this policy. So what we're seeing is those in that support category, about that third, give or take, are quite firm at some ends of that spectrum, but there is a significant amount of that support that is soft. And one of the key sort of softness in that support is this sense of, well, I don't think it's going to get done anyway. I can't see the communities, I can't see the states sort of aligning and this happening. So, will we just end up wasting 10, 15 years on something that doesn't end up happening? So there's softness in that support. Versus at the other end of the spectrum, the opposition is quite strong. And it's primarily sort of based around concerns around safety, well-being, Chernobyl, The Simpsons, those things keep recurring in the groups.
Really?
And if you're worried about that kind of stuff, if that's your motivation, it's pretty hard to shift people away from there and convince them that, that this is going to be safe. Not impossible, but hard.
Sure.
What's really interesting is this group in the middle. And this group in the middle, they can see the pros, they can see the cons, and they'll talk in the groups about both. They're quite open to the idea of more reliable and ultimately cheaper power in the long run. You're quite open to those ideas. The problem there is that when you then put a choice to those sorts of voters around, would you rather renewables or would you rather nuclear? That choice skews so heavily in favour of renewables. It's in our sort of quantitative work, it's a factor of about 3 to 1.
Why?
For every,
what do they love about renewables so much?
It's the sense it ties into the safety, that we can have sort of a sense of security in energy. I'll come back to that in a second, without sort of the risks and compromises of nuclear energy, the waste that comes out of that, and those sorts of things. The reason they see security in that is because fundamentally what they're sort of concerned about at the moment around supply security and even costs feeding into this is this sense of it's a supply problem.
Right.
Our supply isn't big enough and it isn't diversified enough. And people will talk about this, gives you an idea of how serious people are taking energy and energy costs at the moment. They will talk about these sorts of ideas of we need to diversify our energy mix because that provides us an insulation from those big energy companies that keep ratcheting up the prices on us. If there's more supply in the market, if there's more competition in the market, there's more sources providing it, that as consumers will give us protection.